Today I'm going to be showing you how to photograph your artwork using your cell phone and how to edit it using a free program. So first things first, you'll want to have your artwork ready to go, surface cleaned off, and I've put down 2 sheets of computer paper here. That's going to go underneath where I'm photographing. You want white paper, not off-white paper like this, because when we white balance the image later on, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to do so. The next thing you'll want to consider is your light source. So I've got a window here. It's ambient light. It's not really strong light or direct light, which will come in and create lots of shadows. So that's something we want to look for. It's easiest to do when the sun's either up in the sky or on an overcast day. Alternately, you can do this outside on an overcast day as well, which would be ideal lighting. When we do this, we're going to want to set our image down. So I'm going to do this one first. And when we photograph it, when you look, you want to try to get it in as much of the viewfinder as you can. You don't want to take your photograph like this. You want to see if you can get it right up to the edges. You also don't want to cut the edges off too, because you can perfect those in the program. You also notice that this side of the image is just a little bit darker. That's where this extra sheet of paper comes in. I'm just going to hold it up like this to kind of bounce the light off the edge of this and create a more evenly lit image. So if I were to take the photograph, I would take it about like that and then move on to my next one. I'm going to do the same thing for that one. Again, I'm going to use my reflected light to make sure that the top isn't darker. And I'm going to take my image just like so. So those are the things you want to do. Again, you don't want to take your image this direction because then you're not maximizing the space in your camera. You're going to want to take it this direction. The other place you can take a photograph is outside on an overcast day. So it is appropriately gloomy out today, and this is another good time to take an image. You can see you still want to fill the whole frame. Just depending on the direction the light is coming from, you can always adjust your image just to make sure the texture of your paper isn't overwhelming. So this is another good way to take your image. So if I was taking this, I would take it just like this. Our next step is editing our image, and I'm going to use the Snapseed app, which is a free app, and you can use it on your iPad or on your phone. And then I'm also going to make sure that I have my original image out or near me so I can compare it to the digital image. So I'm going to open my app, and then I'm clicked on open a photo, and I scrolled through until I found the photo that I was going to use. So for this demo, we are just going to use this tool area down here. We're not going to use any of those preset looks, and we're going to start by adjusting the white balance. So I'm going to select that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this neutral color instead of trying to adjust it manually or auto adjust it, because I have a neutral color present. You can either use that white background as your neutral color or a white, gray, or black within your image. So as I move this, you can see it adjusts the color to a point. And so I'm going to pick that point that's a very neutral gray from the top of my guy's hat here. And that's just going to balance the colors so they look as accurate as they can. And then I'm going to press that check to save that change. The next thing I'm going to do in my tools is I am going to rotate this. So I'm going to select that rotate button, and I like to just do it this way. Another cool feature, if you're kind of checking a drawing, is you can flip it this way as well, if you just want to see how your composition looks flipped. So I'm going to save that, go to my tools again, and the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to adjust the perspective. So if you have an image that seems just a little wonky or off kilter, or you didn't quite get it square within your photograph, this is what we're going to do. We're going to choose this free adjust tool, and then we're just going to pull our finger across the edge here, and I'm going to try to line it up with this grid here as best I can. And the reason we don't crop this beforehand is because you can see it can kind of adjust a little bit easier as we go. So I think that's pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to crop it down, but that's a really nice square image now. So it kind of adjusts your image to be perfectly square, which is what we want. And then we're going to press that check button. All right, the next thing we are going to do is crop our image. This should be fairly straightforward. I'm just going to free crop it, which means I'm just adjusting it by hand. And this is a little bit easier to do on an iPad or a larger screen device than it is on a phone, but I have faith in you guys. Just take your time and double check it. Looks good to me. And then when you have it cropped, you can always kind of zoom in and out just to make sure you don't have any extra from your background in your image. So it's looking good so far. And then the last thing we are going to do is we are going to what's called tuning our image. And this is where we adjust our brightness, contrast, saturation, highlights, shadows, and warmth. So I like to start with brightness, and then you just move your hand back and forth to adjust that. And that's kind of, this is kind of eyeballing it compared to your image here. So I'm going to up the contrast a little bit, and then, or the brightness, and then I'm going to go to the contrast. I like to usually up the brightness and contrast just a little bit, especially if I took it on an overcast day like what I did with this image. And you can see you can go too far or too low contrast as well. So I'm just going to try to do this within reason. That looks about good. Saturation, I might bop the saturation up just a little bit. Again, I'm trying to get it as accurate to my image here. It might not look accurate on your screen, but to me it looks very accurate. Highlights, this is just kind of pulling up the lighter end of the values in your image. And shadows, this is your darker values. You can pull them lighter or a little bit darker. I'll probably just leave them about where they are. And then warmth, this we already kind of took care of with our white balance, but if you notice it's like a little bit too cool or warm, you can always adjust it otherwise. And if you want to see how things looked before you made your adjustments, you can always just hold down your finger and it'll show you the before and after. So I'm happy with that. It looks good. I'm going to press my check button because I think I'm ready to save that step. Some of the other tools you can use in here are curves. They're a little bit more advanced. So one of the things I like to do with curves is just kind of play around with them. You can pull over parts of the image or parts of the curve line to make higher or lower contrast. So I'm just going to adjust those very slightly, but this is kind of more an advanced feature that you might not necessarily use. So that looks good. I'm really happy with how the image is looking, and I'm almost ready to export here. One more thing I'll show you is the healing brush. Now this is a tool that if you had like a speck of dirt or a cat hair on your image and you wanted to get rid of it before you uploaded it, you would zoom in on that area. Like I have a little bit of a darker corner over here that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to cover it with this brush, and it's going to sample kind of the color and texture from the area around it and cover that up. So that just got rid of that dark corner, which is pretty awesome. It's a little harder to use on areas with detail. So say I want to get this line out, it's not really going to work. It's going to sample from a different area and it is not going to look good. But we have this undo button where we can get rid of that. Say you have a little dot, you know, this is getting kind of crazy detailed, but say you have that dot, you want to get rid of it, that gets rid of it. So you can see that, but I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so I'm good to go. The last step is exporting my image. So this is how I'm going to save it to my camera roll. I can save a copy I don't really want to save it because it'll overwrite my original image, but I do want to save it first as a copy, and then I'm going to export it to my camera roll. So this will save it right to the program, and then this is where I save it, and that selection of exporting it as a copy with permanent changes saves it as a .jpeg file, and those are the kind of files that you're going to use when you're uploading it to your learning management system like Canvas or D2L, or whatever your university uses, or if you even want to post it on Facebook or Instagram, that's kind of the best way to do it. You can also share directly to whichever programs you're using or to certain people right from this program, or open it within another program as well. But I'm ready to go. This is saved to my camera roll, and I should be able to upload it really easily to D2L. So have fun editing your art images. I hope this was helpful.